in the last two videos of the Voices of the LCMS series, we looked at over 1,000 LCMS leaders said about the most pressing, urgent challenges facing our synod. We looked at reaching and retaining youth and young adults, and then last week we looked at what rose to the surface in the written comments, the pastoral pipeline problem. So today I want to zoom in further on one specific part of the pastoral formation conversation, the specific ministry pastor program, SMP. So for decades, the quote, gold standard in our church body has been the traditional residential seminary route. And there are great blessings to this route for sure. There's not only the deep theological training, but the close-knit community on campus that really can promote lifelong friendships. And can I add another benefit? The intramural program. Go Pharaoh's Army 2006 to 2007. If you know, you know. But the question many of you raised in this survey is whether this route is truly forming the right pastors. So let's look at what the numbers are telling us. When these leaders were asked about confidence in our current routes to pastoral ministry overall, only 29% expressed confidence, 26% were uncertain, and 45% were not confident in our current routes. Translations, a lot of us aren't confident in the routes we're currently offering. So when the focus, though, narrowed to the residential seminary route, again, often stated or implied as the gold standard, 40% of these leaders expressed confidence, 27% were unsure, and 33% had little to no confidence. That's not great numbers for a gold standard. But here's where it gets really interesting. When these leaders were asked about the SMP program, a program that our synod, come on, let's be real, is often torn on, where graduates also sometimes feel inferior, the confidence was higher than for residential. Now, not by much, but I think that's telling. Instead of 40% confident for residential, it was 44% confidence in SMP, 29% unsure, and 27% little to no confidence. In other words, SMP is not being seen as a second-tier option by many who took this survey, but actually as an option in which we're slightly even more confident. Now, does this mean that SMP should replace the residential route? No, I'm not saying that. But the data is showing that SMP is working, that it's actually training, equipping, and placing pastors into real ministry contexts and providing a number of pastors that are amazing for our church body. And so I don't think the question, by the way, should be, is SMP the new gold standard? But rather, how can we best raise up pastors for the future? It's through multiple, robust, and respected pathways. The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. That's what Jesus said. And if God is raising up men to serve, then we need routes that are faithful, that are accessible to all people, and really effective. And we need to stop degrading SMP. My opinion, let's retire that term gold standard. It does not promote brotherhood. It creates division, tiers, and classes that don't need to exist and that, quite frankly, are not helpful. I thoroughly enjoyed my residential program from 2005 to 2010. I made some lifelong friends, but my journey there wasn't perfect. It turns out that students, professors, and all faculty are filled with people who, Lutheran theology, are both saints and sinners simultaneously. It's not perfect. But one of my favorite pieces of my residential program, if I'm honest with you, is that I was blessed for 3 of my years to lead a college ministry at St. Louis University while I was still a student. And that's when I truly realized the power of learning while doing ministry. While I was getting all of this head knowledge, this theology, I was able to practice it. And this is one of the most beautiful aspects of the SMP that we ought to highlight more, that students get to learn and work out their theology in real time in ways that go past just typical field work. So my point is this. There are a large number of voices in the LCMS that greatly value the SMP program. Awesome. But having been an SMP mentor for 2 past students and currently mentoring 1, I've seen and witnessed the opposite as well. And it's time we stop treating the program and the students that go through it as inferior and instead improve what's already working. The residential route is great for some. The SMP route is great for others. This is not a time, I believe, for an either or. It is a both and. People need Jesus, and we need as many leaders as possible and as many pastors. And according to many current Lutheran leaders, SMP is here to stay. So let's stop knocking it. Let's celebrate it. And so here's some questions I want to leave you with today. Should SMP take an even more prominent role in the LCMS? How can we help past and current SMP students to not feel inferior, but fully valued as pastors in our church body? What changes could make both residential and SMP routes more effective for the future? What would it look like if we celebrated both pathways as vital parts of our church body rather than creating unnecessary tiers? And if you are an SMP student or have been one, in what ways have you been treated because of your program? So drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep learning from one another as we keep discerning where, God, are you leading the LCMS? And hey, if you find these videos helpful, please subscribe and share. Your engagement helps get these conversations into more hands, which hopefully means they're getting into the right rooms where real change might possibly happen for the sake and glory of Jesus Christ. And I'll see you next week for the next episode of Voices of the LCMS, where we're going to look at the big question: should there be an online Masters of Divinity offered in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod?